Once she provided us with the fact that she dropped him off and never saw him go in the house, she was asked to provide details about her leaving. She stated that she made a 3-point turn and left.
At any point, did anybody else, other than the people that you talked about previously, come into your house?
No.
And specifically, John O'Keefe or Karen Reed that you saw at the bar earlier that night, at any point in time on the evening of the 28th or the early morning of the 29th, did either of those people come into your house?
No, they never came into my home.
And
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house.
JJ and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived at the house. Who, if anyone else, came by the house that you were aware of?
No one.
Well, let me ask it this way. As far as anybody else following them actually physically come into the house?
No one else came into the house after them, no.
And at some point now, beyond the people that you just described, did anyone else come into your house, into your parents' house that evening while you were there?
No.
And specifically, Mr. O'Keefe and or his significant other, Ms. Reed, at any point in time while you were there, did they come into your house?
No, neither of them ever came into the home.
And so beyond the people that you'd already talked about being in that kitchen dining room area in that second group, did anybody else come into the house that night while you were there?
No.
And at the time on January 28, 2022, were you familiar with either a person named John O'Keefe or a person named Karen Reed?
No.
And at any point in time, not knowing them, did you see anybody else come into the house while you were there between that 12 to 12:15 and 1:45 in the morning?
No one else came in, no.
Was the mood any different than it had been the entire night?
No.
Anything extraordinary or remarkable happen inside that house?
No.
After Julie went out and spoke to her brother and came back in the house, did anybody else come inside the house other than everybody who was already there celebrating Brian Jr.'s birthday?
No.
Did you ever see another man or woman you didn't know come into that house?
No.
Just enough time that as I was ventilating, I was able to ask, did anybody see anything? What happened? And there was one individual that replied several times, I hit him.
So she said, I hit him. She repeated it. You what? She repeated it one more time.
She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours.
You were questioned why they focused solely on Karen Reed. Hysterical at times?
Yes.
Raising her voice at times?
Yes.
Crying at times?
I didn't see any actual tears, but that type of emotional.
I was personally given was just, I hit him. Oh my God, I hit him.
And
this is all my fault. This is my fault. I did this. And she was very hysterical
during that moment.
She said, I don't think I'm ever going to see you guys again. And I said, of course you will. We're friends.
That someone said she had hit him. And
she had said that they had gotten into an argument. She was sad because that was the last thing she had said to him was the argument, but she didn't go into detail on what the argument was about or what was said.
The closest I must have said was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say this many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Do you have an opinion whether, based on the data and based on the physical damage and your testing, whether that is consistent with a collision or a impact with Mr. John O'Keefe?
It is consistent with a collision as long as it's greater than approximately 8 miles an hour.
Do you have an opinion whether it's consistent with an impact or collision with Mr. John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022 at around 12:32 a.m.?
With that caveat, yes.
In your testing, did you consider, or do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty, whether John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm, and inevitably in the back of his head, are consistent with being struck by a Lexus identical to the defendant's Lexus on January 29, 2022?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
That it is. It is consistent with being struck by a Lexus and ultimately contacting a hard surface such as frozen ground.
And does that specifically pertain to January 29, 2022 around 12:30 a.m.?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
Yes, it does.
Hey guys, welcome. Happy Thursday.
Hello. By the way, I love that last clip of Dr. Welcher because for some reason, people who argue that Karen is innocent always seem to forget that there was a biomechanic engineer, accident reconstructionist who did say on the stand that it was his expert opinion that John O'Keefe was hit by Karen's SUV. So I just love that we have that clip in there.
Yep.
Yep.
They always seem to forget those parts.
Yep.
Great witness. Yeah. Well, I am here with Lydia Tuesday, and we are excited to have you. It's been kind of an eventful day. Maybe we'll get into that a little later, but we are happy to have Drew from the COMM CENTER with us tonight. And welcome, Drew.
Hey.
Hi, Drew.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, happy to have a former, I'm going to say it the way Boston people say it. We actually had this conversation tonight. We were sending voice notes to each other, but former law enforcement on the show with us.
I pronounce cop.
Yeah, it was funny. We were talking to Carrie, and she's like, I don't say it the way Hank said it in the trial. And she sent us a voice note. We're like, you literally say it exactly like Hank said it. Law.
You know, the theme for tonight can almost be if Welker was on the other side. If X was on the other side, would you believe him more? Because anytime you've ridden a roller coaster in just about every major theme park in North America, that dude has had input into your safety.
True.
And, like you get on Space Mountain and you get off Space Mountain, you know, without injury. You know, you get the cool photo because of a guy like that or Aperture, and you trust him for all that. But just because he testified for who he testified, for some reason he becomes Blue Man Group. You know, it's a humanizing part of this that I can't stand.
Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah. Well, do you want to give us a little bit of your background before we get into some of the things we want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I started out as a 911 dispatcher early in my career. And I worked my way up to get out onto the street at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Florida. That's where I live.
Florida, me too.
It's freezing here right now.
It is so cold here. I just had to bring my plants
whatever,
in.
you guys.
It's I worked my way up from being a dispatcher. I was a cop on the street. It's what I wanted to do my entire life. I was a cop for Halloween. I was a cop for Halloween every year. And this is just something that I really wanted to do. And I attained that goal. I was a detective for a very long time. I was promoted. I was involved in a drinking and driving incident where I was demoted. And then I've been sober ever since. 17 years I've been sober. So there's that. I'm very familiar with the shame and guilt of drunk driving. I wasn't arrested, by the way. I think there's a myth going around that I was arrested and booked, and I was never arrested. I was close, but I was never arrested. So there's that. You fast forward, I became a supervisor again after being demoted. I was re-promoted and then promoted again, then promoted again. I supervised detectives. Look, I worked a bunch of assignments. I wrote 2 wiretaps. Like not many people can say they've done that. I've easily authored 100 search warrants. As a detective supervisor, I've edited, approved, or been in the process or served at least double or triple that. I taught interviews and interrogations for about 10 years. What else? Then, you know what happened to me like late in life? I became I was a lieutenant. I was a shift commander on the street, and the sheriff called me one day and said, "Hey, I'd like you to go back up and run the same comm center that you started in." And so I did that for a year. I was a commander up there, and that's kind of where I got the passion to do this channel that I do, the comm center. We you know, every good true crime story starts with a 911 call, and we just talk about the 911 call itself, the body cam, and the trial process, which brought me into this orbit, and I want to be fully, I want to make everyone aware. I'm not an expert in Karen Reed. I'm not an expert in the Karen Reed case, and I think we should be reframing this to the John O'Keefe case anyway. God rest John O'Keefe's soul. I pray for his family and his friends, but I think that we should be focusing a little bit more on what's important in the case, not who thinks they're the victim in all of this.
Agree.
Amen.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said. No, we appreciate you being here, and I've been so excited to have you on and just to get your perspective and your insight coming from your experience as a retired officer, lieutenant. And there is so much to analyze about this case, and I think it is worth saying that there is importance in people who don't know the case frontward and backward and come in with their own expertise and their own analysis, and they are not drained, they're not in the media and getting all their information from other sources and then coming in and looking at the case, because as we know, that has been an issue with many people regarding this case.
Sure.
So
I don't mind being the fresh set of legs. I get accused very often because our Twitter account is only a year old, and I only started interacting on Twitter about 3 months ago. I'm sorry, X. Yeah, you caught me at a boomer moment. So I've only been interacting on X for about for a couple months, but we've been around for about 3 years. We were on a different channel on YouTube for a while. We had a podcast. I was part of a different podcast, and then we kind of split out onto our own. Then we made our own channel, and that's the channel we're on now. We've been doing that for 2 years, and we have close to, I'm not even flexing here, 500 something videos, and only 10 of them are about Karen Reed. So right. I'm just trying to tell you that, like, we're not, when you come at me with all of your Karen Reed stuff, like, I'm just telling you from my perspective as a multi-decade, 30-year law enforcement officer. I'm not necessarily telling you that I sat and ate Suzy Q's on the couch and did nothing but watch trials and take notes and watched every YouTube lawyer that there is known to man. I watched some of the hearings in between the two trials. I watched the trial as it unfolded in the second for the second trial, which is, pretty much how we were developing our playlist as we went along. And I'll be real frank with anybody that wants to challenge this. When we first started this, I was on Team LawTuber. Like, I was just like, man, this is crazy. This is a conspiracy. This is like, I can't believe they're doing this to this girl. Why would they do this? Then slowly but surely, I started thinking. I watched the episode with Kevin a couple weeks ago, and he had a similar epiphany. It was just kind of like, something's not adding up here. Like, if the DA's office is this corrupt, and they've already called this much attention to it, and they have an opportunity to cut and run right now, why is it that they think they have enough evidence to pursue this charge again? And so that's enough to move the needle for me. So I start digging deeper and deeper. And if you see, like, I sink in my seat at some of the things I said about Jen McCabe in those early episodes, or about Brian Higgins, or about, well, not necessarily Brian Higgins, but about any of them. Like, I leave it up there because if I say it, I own it. And that's the information I was processing at the time. But I came to realize this is not correct. This is not right. And you could just start picking little pieces up, especially the defense tactics. This is like Alan Jackson just used a page out of Johnny Cochran's playbook. I'm old enough to understand the O.J. Simpson case, the intricacies. I was just getting into law enforcement at that point in my life. So I watched that trial intently. I see the parallels all over the place. And I watched history repeat itself. Except it's a little bit more cruel this time, because there's a social media element to it, and there's an anonymity element within social media that makes people think that they can say anything to anyone at any time.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Very well said. It's the social media effect has just made this true crime world go crazy. I don't even know what the right word would be for it, but it's just gone absolutely wild. I feel like the true crime or community in general, maybe years ago, there was such a bigger emphasis on victims first. You know, we wanted to make sure we caught the bad guy. We wanted to make sure that victims felt supported and that their families got a voice. And now it's like there's just so much noise online and the conspiracies run wild and the victims get lost, and it's just wild. But yeah, it's this case is identical in its own way to the OJ case, which people hate when we say this and they fight it. But
I've got a video coming soon that'll show you why.
Awesome.
But
so you guys all subscribe to his channel so we can wait on this episode because I am excited about it.
Society has devolved and evolved in the true crime community sense because everybody is used to the I referred to it earlier when I was talking to Tuesday as, you know, this is like Twilight. You know, either you're Team Edward or Team Werewolf or whatever. I don't know. But
team Edward, team. I don't remember the other one.
I don't either.
Team Alan. So there's that, and then it combines with true crime. So these people that used to be reality TV show followers got into their factions of Survivor or whatever have now traded over to actual real life, you know, victims, and it has an impact on John O'Keefe's family and his kids, the kids that he, you know, adopted out of the kindness of his heart. And his family doesn't deserve to be harassed. There isn't anybody in this case, by the way, that deserves to be harassed. I don't care which side. I don't care where you sit politically. I don't care where you sit in this case. You should be able to have a discourse without discord, first of all. But second of all, you shouldn't be threatening people or making their lives miserable, because this is what the court is for. This is what the criminal justice system is for. And if you're going to make the argument that she is not guilty, well, that's fine. The court will find that. The jury will find that. But you can't do that by pointing your finger at random people saying they are guilty, because they deserve the same deference. They deserve the same innocent until proven guilty as anybody.
Exactly. It's the vigilante, and that's why you don't show up at Karen Reed's house. You don't show up at the witness's house. It's that easy.
Well, and, you know, talking about the change, that vigilante thing where people are going real life and going to people's homes, that actually happened in the Brian Laundrie case. But the difference was that was happening at Brian Laundrie's parents' house, and it was equally disgusting. They shouldn't have done that. Someone ended up getting arrested over that. But there has been a shift from the Brian Laundrie days to now we accuse the friends, like Kylie Rodney. You know, immediately people were accusing her friends of murdering her when she drove into a body of water. And it was the same in Delphi, where they just accused innocent witnesses, and people who looked like every other man in Indiana, you know, were being harassed and stalked online. And it's so shocking and awful in this case in particular, because it's his family and it's his friends and it's the people who tried the hardest to help him when he needed it the most.
Right.
And I guess I was wondering, have you, just in law enforcement, have you ever experienced that type of abuse that we're seeing in this case?
I mentioned that I was a detective for a while. I worked in an area, like there's two routes that you can go on, in my opinion, that I was not from a small department, by the way, 3,500 people, Hillsborough County, Florida is, you know, we serve 1.6 million people. I retired 3 or 4 years ago. So anybody that thinks they're going to get in trouble with IA, you're welcome to call them. But I was a detective for a while. The major leagues, in my opinion, were the way I had it were on the undercover side, it was criminal intelligence, and on the criminal investigation or violent crime side, it was homicide. And I really, truly always wanted to be a homicide detective, like deep down inside. I was given the opportunity to become a criminal intelligence detective. And that's, they're kind of like the best of the best. I'm not even breaking my arm to pat myself in the back. We were very good. And we handled cases of public corruption. We handled cases of, we tracked hate groups and all kinds of other things, handled covert surveillance and stuff like that. And one of our functions was, it was written right into our SOP, anything deemed sensitive by the sheriff. So the sheriff's an elected official, obviously. We had a top-notch sheriff back when I was in criminal intelligence. Not saying anything about the sheriff that's in there now. He's fine. He's a friend of mine. And the sheriff would call occasionally because he would get calls from judges or local attorneys, defense attorneys even, because these nutcases, you're dealing with criminal defendants and you're dealing with their associates who are generally criminals, or they get caught up in the web of rumor and innuendo, and they assume that all cops are corrupt. And okay, that's fine. We've earned some of that here and there. I don't think to the level that we're being persecuted in a way, but so one of the cases that I was assigned in criminal intelligence was a threat on the chief of the felony division at the time of the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office, 13th Judicial Circuit. And this is where I tell you, I don't care where your politics are, because I know this person is a human being. And until you know this person as a human being, I don't care what your opinion is. But her name was Pam Bondi, and she's the Attorney General of the United States now. And I'm completely proud of what I did for that case. It wasn't major. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't like she sends me a Christmas card every year. Thank you for saving my life. But it was a nut. And it was just another nut. And he was incessantly calling her. He was leaving like very, just creepy voice messages that, there's a 98% chance he's not going to act on this. The 2% kept me up at night though. So the matter was resolved. She went on to bigger and better things. She became the Attorney General of Florida. She was threatened on the daily once she became the Attorney General of Florida, because, this is the emergence of social media, and this is where people thought that she was anti this or anti that. And this is why I tell you, until you know her, I don't care what your opinion is of her. Like, I understand she's not popular right now, but, so I don't tell you that just to gratuitously name, but we haven't spoken in 10 years or 12 years or whatever it is. It's not like I pick up the phone and I know for a fact though, the way that she ran that Hillsborough State Attorney's Office, the way her and her elected, the state attorney for that judicial circuit, everything was on the up and up. And I can evidence by saying, not that we brought bad cases to her, but if we brought cases that were like, that didn't have every T crossed or I dotted, they weren't taking it. Her prosecutors were not going to prosecute these cases. So that's the inner workings of a good and true, integrity-driven state attorney's office. And I think that there are issues that have been raised recently that call some of these other offices into question, that would overshadow any thought of corruption within a local little DA's office.
Right. And what's so unusual about all of this is everything has to be corrupt for this to work. So it has to be the DA's office. It has to be the police. It has to be the firefighters. It has to be the EMTs. It has to be the judge. It has to, there's how can everything be corrupt?
Oh, and the ID documentary people are now corrupt.
Oh, and they're corrupt too. Yes. And of course, all of us, we're corrupt.
Yeah. And by the way, have other than Tuesday, who I had a very pleasant 30-minute conversation with, 30 minutes in my time, 4 hours in her time. Have I met any of you before? Like in true Hank Brennan fashion? Have I ever Am I on anybody's payroll here? Like, there are questions. This is why I say it's top of mind. Fraudulent activity is top of mind on a lot of people's mind. And I got accused the other day of being a PR agent for families. And I don't know these people. Dude, I'm on X. Like, I don't mean ecstasy. Like, I'm on the app X, which I call like that I run like a PR.
Right. I was on Facebook the other day and I posted, it was talking about actual data and facts and quotes. And someone said, this is suspect. And I'm like,
Everything's
what?
suspect.
Yes. I'm like, if talking about the actual data and the actual testimony is suspect to you, there is a problem.
Yeah. Well, Drew and I both live in Florida, which means we're not acquaintances. We are really good friends.
Yep.
We basically
get out the cork board.
We go on vacations together with our families.
Yeah.
Yep. You've babysat kids I don't even have.
Yeah, it's so crazy what we get accused of. It's just unbelievable. And as you know, our budget would not allow us to pay you even if we wanted to.
I want to go on the record to say that Lydia and I were the ring bearer and flower girl in Ginny's wedding.
It's true. It's true.
We'll show pics later. It was so
I admit
cute.
it. Yeah.
I was at the baby shower.
Well, there is now of people at the baby shower and people go things, and I guess don't want to talk about that, which is fine. I don't think I would either. I think I'd be scared to death right now if I were them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we move into the 911 stuff?
Let's.
Yes, let's do that.
You want me to roll the tape?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Do we want to preface this real quickly? So
yeah, I'll set it up. If you'll remember, let me take you back. Karen called Carrie, or John's niece actually called Carrie, right? And when they all converged and they all got together, Carrie being the adult, you heard her a couple of weeks ago on here, if you're following, for those of you at home. She was the adult in the room. And I'm not taking away anything from Jen, but look, Karen Reed was beside herself. There's no question about it. She'd been through a traumatic event. Whether she is like in denial of that to this day, that's on her. That's between her and Jesus. But so she's just trying to walk through the process. And I'm telling you, this phone call like slams it home to me. This was not a 911 call. This was a call to the non-emergency number of the Canton Police Department, if you want to play it.
Which, to note, Karen did not make. So
No.
Karen is stressing, and the first person that even considers to call the police is Carrie Roberts, even though Karen is the one saying that John's dead, John's hit by a snowplow.
Right.
So I will start the video for you.
Okay, I'll start and stop at points and just kind of explain where I'm coming from on this.
Okay.
Canton Police, sounding good.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. They were at Waterfalls, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's a Boston cop, and he would be on foot, but...
No.
I just want to point out, she's very calm. He's very calm. She's concerned, obviously. And somebody was trying to plant the seed the other day that Higgins, walking around Canton PD after he did what he did, got there to tell, this is why he was in dispatch, to tell Sean Good how to execute this plan of the cop they just killed. So bear that in mind when you're listening to this phone call. If this sounds like the guy that's going to handle the dirty work of this plan.
Before you start, sorry. I'm going to state the obvious just to state it, but the visual is AI and the audio is real audio of the 911, or not the 911, the police call.
Thank you.
Yeah, needed to be stated. Also, real quick, just to correct something. That John's niece called Jen. Karen called Carrie. Just because they're going to come for us. They're going to come for us if we don't have it right.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake there. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know.
Hopefully he got a ride and passed out at somebody's house. I don't know.
But
yeah, but no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow. They're at the present.
Okay, so the suspicious, like the detective in me, that listening to this and I'm trying to figure out if Sean Good is the mastermind behind this. I think that he would be trying to keep her on the phone a little bit more, and I think she would probably be giving a little more information in the sense that he would be asking her, so who are you with and where are you guys at? Okay, and what are you doing? And who's what? Okay, I'll tell you what, you guys just come here. You know what I mean? Like, there would be so much more to this. So lest any of you think that this is that Sean Good is behind the whole, they suspended him because of his text messages with Proctor because he was in collusion. No, he probably said dirty words like Proctor, and he's going to pay just like Proctor did. It's got nothing to do with John O'Keefe's death. So get that out of your head and like see for yourself.
He lives on Meadow off of Pleasant. Okay, and is the wife home? You said his girlfriend?
It's his girlfriend, yeah. They were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yep.
And so I said to her, my husband had been out with him earlier in the night, but then he came home, and he has custody of his niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. It's just she's nervous because he never even called the niece.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened. And I said, okay. Well, so he called the area hospital. Nobody has him. I personally think someone probably picked him up and he passed out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He didn't drive last night?
No.
No.
It's a very good question he's asking. He didn't drive last night. If he drove last night, you're probably, as the sergeant who's taking this call, and it's important to note that Canton at the time didn't have civilian dispatchers. People think that Canton's this big, huge, corrupt, blah, blah, blah. There are 40 officers in Canton, including the chief and the detectives. And 40, if I'm not mistaken. It's 25,000 people in the town, 40 cops. And they all took turns in dispatch. You got to run 24/7 shifts. So do the math. There's probably 2 cops working at a time and 1 in dispatch. So, and that's my guess. I don't know exactly how they ran it.
Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you. She would have to, call in or come to the station and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he just didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes happen with him?
No. That's why. Since he didn't call his niece. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital. I said I would call Canton police just to make sure he didn't get picked up. But like I said, he's a Boston police officer. He knows a bunch of people. Anybody could have picked him up.
Yeah.
Freaking it out.
Okay.
Apparently they were having a pleasant party of some sort.
Yeah. No.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that. Okay. All righty.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right. No problem. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Just a couple quick thoughts here. You would be shocked at the amount of calls that our communications section, that any law enforcement agency's communications section or that end up on the street that me as the shift commander have to evaluate, where, and it could be the guy or the girl, is saying, hey, I think my girlfriend is being held hostage. What? Yeah, I think my girlfriend's being held hostage. I'm pinging her iPhone, and it's coming back to this this address of 6710 West Waters. And, you know, the dispatcher is like, understandably not maybe putting two and two together, or maybe they are, and trying to get this off the plate. And then it gets out to us on the street, and I run 6710 West Waters Avenue, and that's the Motel 6.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get this straight. Your girlfriend or your wife of 20 years or whatever it is in the Motel 6. What makes you think she's being kidnapped? She's not answering the phone. So look, this works both ways. This cuts both ways, because there is a very famous case in Hillsborough County from the 80s, late 80s, where we received a check the welfare call at a local restaurant. And the deputy received the information but dismissed it as, it's probably an affair. He never got out of his car to check the door at the business where this guy kept calling over and over. My wife has not come home. I'm telling y'all, she hasn't come home. I need you to go check on her. And he would drive through the parking lot, and he'd see the two cars there, and then he'd keep going because he didn't want to interrupt something, right? Well, on the third and final phone call, it's the guy that's been calling all night in the parking lot, and he's saying, I need you to come here now because there's two people shot in there. And the door was left unlocked. It turns out he killed his wife, and he kept trying to go find the bodies for him, but we wouldn't do it. And so these things happen. I can tell you, though, the other side of this, the 99% of the time, 99.9999% of the time, it's some kind of affair. It's the wife or they've had a domestic and she's just cooling off somewhere, or it's the man that's drunk, or she's not, or one of the spouses is not forthright about the crack habit that he's recently developed, and he's in Cracktown with their Nintendo Switch. You know what I mean? Like, so we get these calls all the time, and you can almost hear Sean just kind of like, yeah, I mean, like, you guys are going to need to maybe come in here. Like, he's just like, he got drunk and passed out somewhere. Like, you're saying, you know it. We both know it. You know what I mean? He's not thinking by any stretch of the imagination that this guy's on the side of the road somewhere. Asking questions to make sure, like, was he driving? Because if he was driving, maybe he is stuck in a snowbank somewhere, and maybe they are going to send out, a bunch of people to go look for him. They're probably going to look for him anyway, to be honest, but it's probably not going to be taken as desperate as somebody that's like this call, which is the next call.
Well, and
do you have any questions in between?
Well, the triaging is interesting, because I guess I haven't thought a lot about that question, but he is kind of triaging the possibilities of what might have happened by asking if he was driving, because it was a blizzard. There were dangerous conditions. So if, you can rule that out, then you can move on to other things. Otherwise, they might be looking for accident reports or, that kind of thing. I don't think that question gets brought up a lot. So I'm glad that you pointed that out.
He also, it was framed as, well, he was out with his girlfriend last night and they went and had a bunch of drinks. We were all out and blah, blah, blah. So obviously this is what you've taken him down a trail. It's not her fault, because that's the truth. She's telling the truth. She's just trying to find out where he is. But you've taken him down a trail because cops and or dispatchers have to make these second by second assessments of everything that you're telling them. And he's thinking, all right, well, I mean, yeah, there's probably a few guys that had a blizzard party last night and are sleeping on dude's couch. And it's not dismissive, and I don't think it's unfair, because hindsight is always going to be 20/20. And this is kind of what I would tell a young officer, like, this is why you have to treat every call like it's John O'Keefe. you kind of have to treat it that way. I'm not telling, young officers to be completely paranoid and assume that every check the welfare call is some type of hit and run or murder or whatever we want to call it. But there is a path that he's kind of thinking, and it should abate any thought that he had any prior knowledge of any of this. Like he could just, that's silly in my part.
Yeah. Well, the conversation, you can listen to how they're speaking to one another. It's even though Carrie is concerned, it's still somewhat laid back. They're bantering a little bit. He says, "Oh, I wish, I was there," or, at the party. It's a calm, like you said, it's a very calm conversation. There is no indication that either side is holding anything back.
I'm very glad I just saw Jules in the comments there say that, they wouldn't take it seriously at first anyway, because, you need 24 hours for the missing person. And I'll tell you, not to correct or embarrass, but you don't need that. No cop will ever give you the 24-hour speech. That's maybe days of yore or on TV. But if you think something is suspicious and your loved one hasn't returned, there's no reason you shouldn't call. And they'll take it from there. They're going to make this determination, just like Sean Good just went through. Like, yeah, I mean, is it really that suspicious that you're saying he was out drinking and she left him? I mean, is it anything more than him couch surfing right now? Or, but you don't need that 24 hours. I just want to be clear about that. So don't think if your loved one is missing that you have to wait for any reason.
Right. And again, like how, if you just want to do a little critical thinking, how would you pull off choosing the dispatcher that worked that night and choosing the firefighters who were going to be on call in terrible weather, who probably didn't want to be working that night or that following morning? It's so ridiculous. It's like
all the stars aligned.
Yes.
Stars aligned.
And by the way, I don't want to, we don't have to retry the case, but just think about how any officer there would know that this whole case is going to hinge on the physics from a roller coaster scientist in saying at what speed the brake light or the tail light is going to shatter and whether or not there would be a mark on the guy's arm. Like how would you know that is going to be the crux of this entire case? Because that was not definitive on either side. Like both sides say this all the time. Like nobody said that. And then the other side says, yeah, actually they did say that. And who would know that the tail light is going to be the mystery in all of this? So you mean to tell me that the evidence recovery team knew to plant the tail light because they knew that it was going to be the unsolved mystery of this whole thing is a bunch of pieces of tail light?
Right. And they're in cahoots with the guy who isn't even awake yet.
Yeah. Right.
And this is the thing too, is with John's cell phone, so for the conspiracy to happen, there are questions you have to answer. And these questions are not getting asked and they're not getting properly explained by conspiracy theorists. One of which is John's phone. So John's phone, in order to get to the house within that window of time when the circle of his location expands when the Wi-Fi drops, right? Mm-hmm. And it goes back in and it centers back around the flagpole, is so short. It's within seconds. So in order for John to get to the house, his phone would have to bounce right back at the flagpole. And Trooper Garino did the math on the stand. And John would have had to walk about 32 miles per hour to the door. And then whoever was there had to be ready to pass the phone over and run 32 miles back to the flagpole. And this drive, it's How do you explain that?
Your naivety of using a Faraday bag is showing too.
Yeah.
but here's the other part of that too. Like you're right. You're 1,000% right. And the average human walks 7 miles an hour. They're
Right.
like, and this is something I always thought of too. They used a lot of Apple Health data. Everyone's relying on these steps, which I can tell you from my position as a 911 commander that elevation is not accurate in any iPhone or Apple Watch, and I'll tell you why in a second. But wouldn't his heart rate go up a little bit if he were going down, Colin? Don't you? Even if he got knocked on the head and fell forward a little bit, don't you think there would be a change in his heart rhythm? And I hate to be so graphic. Like it's bad to even talk about what how this guy died, but that's what we're here for, I guess. But look, there was no fight. Like if there was a fight, they would have had to put him in bubble wrap, because everything that anybody says about he wasn't hit by a car. Yeah, no shit. I know he wasn't hit by a car. That's not what anybody's saying. Nobody ever said he was. He was clipped. She said he was clipped. The prosecutor said he was clipped. The jurors think he was clipped and lost his shoe. But fight to take place, they would have wrapped him. They would have had to have wrapped him in complete bubble wrap. Fight just with the back of his head. Hit it right with the weight or the iron or whatever they were using, and then unwrap him and get that dog to with the
and not even they couldn't even hit from the back of the head because there was no blunt. They were saying it was not a blunt object that would be swung at the head. It had to have been the ground. And this was another misconception. Someone argued with me to the point where I think I ended up blocking them the other day. Was they were saying that the medical examiner who did the autopsy is the one that said that John's head had to hit a ledge. That was not the medical examiner who did the autopsy. That was the defense's expert who said the ledge thing. And the defense tried to push that onto the medical examiner, Dr. Scordy Bello, I think was her name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And she denied it. She said, no, I don't agree with that assertion that it, so just to make that clear, because for some reason the defense experts and the defense team seems to be the only listened to when people are analyzing this case from the conspiracy side. And
I'm sorry to cut you off like for the 10th time I have tonight. I've noticed that.
No, not at all. I cut people off all the time.
We'll keep talking. You have to just
yes,
right.
Yes.
But let's think about the entrance to the garage didn't go into the house, did it? Or did it? Okay. So how would he know to go to the garage? There was no text that's, like you come in here, parentheses garage. How would he go to the garage?
Why would you? He had never been there before. Why would you walk into someone's garage?
I mean,
and Karen never even said he walked into the garage.
She said she saw him stick his head inside the door.
The breezeway.
And
door. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but she said, we barely knew these people. We weren't really comfortable. We didn't really know. So he went to check and make sure we were okay. But he didn't knock. In her story or one of her stories, he just opened the door. So how uncomfortable were they, if that's the story?
Yeah, but now he's uncomfortable, but he walked into the garage to, I don't know, tune up a car, check out the tools. I don't know.
And I always go into people's garages that I don't know. Like I'm known for that. Just straight into the garage.
Well, you saw the picture with Alan in his dumb shoes in the pool of blood that he was that's what that is. And there's the ledge right there. It's completely ridiculous. It's
ridiculous.
It's such theater. And I think it's a shame. I know that it's a defense attorney's job to zealously defend their client and try to mitigate their punishment. But this is a whole new level. This is something different. This is orchestrating a campaign against the people. I still maintain this to this moment. She was innocent until proven guilty. And if she were truly innocent, why would she need to point the finger at anybody else?
Right.
You're not there to prove. And that was his big PR tour before the thing. They're not here to find the truth in the case. They're here to just prove my client is guilty. Well, that's what they were doing the whole time. They were projecting that the whole time. They were trying to prove the case anywhere but the girl that was sitting at the defense table. Yeah, and she can make any allegation she wants. She has no rules to follow. And quite frankly, she's going to cheat to win because she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life in jail. I get it. None of them are ever going to get on the stand, but everybody they accused was vetted. They went on the stand. They were in the stand either in the federal grand jury, which is not easy to do, to get past a federal grand jury without an indictment. Because if you can, everybody makes this argument about Karen. If you can indict a ham sandwich, that's how they indicted Karen Reed. Well, this is a federal grand jury, right, and they couldn't indict those ham sandwiches. One. So if that federal investigation never took place, or it was never officially over, like people still think that this.
They still say it.
Mm-hmm. Someone on his Spaces this morning said they believe it's still open.
Right.
Sure
some people still believe there's a dog involved in this thing. And the Spaces was very, very enlightening to me because there was a dog expert in there that was like, no. And I think she's free Karen Reed. And she's like, no, this is not a dog. So the thing is, if this federal investigation was not really over, the minute Hank Brennan introduced that into court, the way he introduced it, Alan Jackson would have stood up very tall, at least 5'2", maybe even jumped up on his chair and said, "Whoa, I object. We don't know. We don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know that the investigation," because he needs that investigation.
Yeah.
Look, they pull me down into the gutter a lot, and I go. So I just want you all to think about this, that still think that there is a federal investigation going. All of you with your little TikTok, like just you wait, it's going to happen.
Yep.
This investigative body was literally the public corruption unit of the Boston. Is there anybody in Massachusetts, like they made a movie about the corruption in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Do you think the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to pass up an opportunity to indict 2 or 3 cops and
right?
If they didn't have the opportunity to do so, the case is closed.
And I think it's worth noting too is, and not to go down this road at all, but there is now this link between how this federal investigation even started, and maybe we'll cover this another time, but. Or if you're on Twitter, you can go, I believe Ginny has it on her account, maybe posted, and maybe Lydia, I'm not sure, how there's a connection with Karen to how this federal investigation had started. But we also know that Aiden Kearney had admitted that defense attorney Alan Jackson had basically told Aiden, hey, there's a federal investigation underway. Aiden used his blog to report on, hey, there's an investigation on all these people. And so this story started to go out. Well, Alan Jackson then went to court in a hearing and been like, hey, the media is reporting that there's a federal investigation on these witnesses, or on these cops. And so knowing that this is live streamed, the hearings by so many law tours and so many people are watching. And then they ran on this story of like, it's so corrupt that there's a federal investigation that's hands-on. Well, then we had YouTubers like Sean on the Gulf, who admitted that Karen was basically whispering in his ear, hey, the DA's office is being wiretapped. So he's So Sean's running on this notion of he's being told directly from the murder defendant that there is something going on, and he is gung-ho on this himself. So anyways, long story short, the federal investigation closes, right? We have Hank Brennan, who stands in front of court, tells he's an officer of the court. He literally is given permission by the state attorney's office to tell the court the federal investigation has come to a close.
U.S. Attorney's Office, yeah.
Oh, thank you. And what does the defense do? Alan Jackson goes on the media and denies it.
Yep.
Right. Well, let's we forget Brian Albert's attorney and Brian Higgins' attorney both testified to the fact that in open court the matter is closed. The matter is closed. It's there is no investigation.
But poor Higgins must be so dizzy from flipping for 3 years. I mean, the guy's been rolling like an alligator for 3 years and still nothing has happened.
Speaking of flipping, we have flipped all the way away from our topic.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just hoping we're not going to run out of time to do everything you wanted to do.
You gotta, and I cut you off on your video that you were going to play.
Yeah, we'll get back to it in a second if you don't mind. We did a video, one of our videos on the playlist when we were starting to turn, and I'll be quite frank. The more people came at me, the more I said, now I know this is bullshit. Now I know I need to look deeper into this. And because what they were coming at me with was like, what? And I'll tell you this. We did an episode called Before They Were Villains. And I did so much research to figure out who Brian Higgins was, who Yuri Buchanan was, who Nicholas Garino was, because we were coming fresh off of a Sandra Birchmore episode, and who Michael Proctor was. And it turns out they all were decorated officers. And that Yuri Buchanan was a Marine, and Brian Higgins had he was awarded a heroism medal in his role at ATF. He was a fire chief somewhere else. He had done all these great things. And the timing that I'm seeing of him being an ATF agent is right about the time of the Boston bombing, the marathon bombing. I know that the ATF was involved in that. There's no two ways about it. So he's not out here telling everybody who he is and what he does, but because he texted well, he is like the worst guy in America. He is the fate of murdering a cop because he put his hood up to go to the Canton PD and move some cars around. Well, what did he have in the bag? He had your mother's ass in the bag. It doesn't matter what he had in the bag. He's got nothing to do with nothing. You're being sold a bill of goods, and you're discrediting a bunch of great, honorable people. Yuri Buchanan, the same thing. Yeah, he was a dick on the stand. I would have been the exact same way, just like stone cold dick. Like, I'm going to make you tell me that. I'm going to make me say that because of the way you're acting towards me. And
I mean, look at everything they've been put through. Who can blame them?
Yeah.
And this is now the second trial. They've been going through it for years. I wouldn't be able to avoid giving attitude on the stand either.
Right. I want to talk about Kelly Dever before we go, because I know that's going to drive people insane. But can you play the second call?
Do we have it? I only see the first.
Well,
I'm sorry. Back on stage. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't see blanket, Terry.
911, what's emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road.
Okay. First, think of any emergency situation you've ever been in and think of where your voice is, meaning you're not in homeostasis anymore. Your adrenaline is pumping. It's making your body do things not normal. It's freezing out, and her stomach is tight, probably everything else. And she's got this high voice, and that's a true 911 call. Tuesday and I talked about me showing you an example of a fake 911 call, like somebody that's trying to cover for a murder, because they are very distinctly different. This is not somebody that's faking anything.
in Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
I don't care that she said that there's a guy unresponsive in the snow. At that moment, you're trying to get the emergency process rolling. She's not going to give his bio and his gene size. She's just saying there is a guy in the snow. It's what she's looking at. She probably has a bunch of auditory exclusion to begin with.
In the snow at
He
34?
passed out, yes, 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up and found him.
Okay, 34 Fairview.
Okay. She even says the Albert residence. She's not afraid of saying where she is. She's saying it's the Albert residence. Nothing is going on here.
That's a great point.
34 Fairview, Canton, Mass, yes.
911, that's not recorded. Where's your emergency?
Is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know.
Okay, that was my fault. So hang on, because there's a point.
Yes, 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up and found him.
Okay. Sean Good, this is what people don't understand that dispatchers do. Public safety answering points, PSAPs, will take cell phone calls or landline calls dependent upon where you live or where the cell tower is that you're making the call.
Mm-hmm.
And they are normally the largest law enforcement agency in the area. Sometimes it's just a law enforcement agency in the area. Normally, a PSAP is just that's where you're going to get the 911 call. I don't think it's set up this way in Canton because I'm sure it's just a series of small towns. Like you saw Ben Affleck and Jimmy Fallon and the other guy naming all the cities in Massachusetts. So it's a series of small towns. So that wherever your cell phone pings is where it's going to get routed to, first of all.
Yeah.
So it gets routed to the police department. The police department does not have ambulances. So if that were a 911 dispatcher, in this case, it's Sean Good, immediately routes the call to emergency medical services, EMS, some kind of firefighter, fire station. I don't know if it's volunteer. I don't know if it's a 911 dispatcher that works, that has, protocol to handle medical emergencies. I guarantee Sean Good didn't, because, that's probably not how they did things. But that's what you hear the second ring. And he never tells her because generally we don't, nobody ever tells you, like, listen to any other 911 call. They'll probably say something like, okay, don't hang up, or hang on the line, I'm transferring you to medical, or don't, just stay with me for a second. The phone will ring again. The second time it rings, the medical people are going to ask the same questions all over again. It's a laborious process. And I'm telling you, it's like gut wrenching to hear when the spotlight is on you as a 911 director. It's gut wrenching here because it's seconds, and seconds matter. But they have to do the process all over again. They need to re-verify the address. They need to determine what the emergency is. And people think you can just call 911 and say, I need help, and hang up. Well, I need help could be a cat in the tree, or I need help could be you've rolled over onto a telephone pole and there's power lines dangling on your car. They need to know what equipment to send. So that's the reason for all of the questions. You got to answer them. And dispatchers notoriously will be curt or rude. Sometimes it's just to slap people like, listen to me. I've got to get this answered. The classic example, the Idaho 4. If you listen to her, it sounds like she's the biggest bitch on the planet. If you ask me, she's brilliant, because they were passing that phone around and they were not listening to what she was trying to do. And she didn't know there were murdered people in there. All she was trying to do is get them help. So,
yeah, that was an aggravating call, I'm sure, for the dispatcher.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and it's understandable too. You got a bunch of 18-year-olds and
yes,
probably used to dealing with like a bunch, no offense, but just like a bunch of shithead teenagers, like partying and passing the phone around. Like
and panicking
because they lost their laptop and calling 911, because that happens too. And to them, that is the biggest emergency they've ever experienced. So a dispatcher has to wade through all that. Just remember this about your dispatchers. They have to go from cat in the tree to John O'Keefe laying on the side of the road needs help. and there's no warning in between. It's just a tone that goes off in their ear. So I'm going to continue to play it if you don't have any questions.
Okay, 34 Fairview. 34 Fairview, Canton, Mass. Yeah.
911, that's on recorded. Where's your emergency?
No, sir, no, I don't know.
Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
See the confusion there? Like all Jennifer is hearing is hello, and
Right.
she's thinking she's got to do this all over again. She has no idea, or maybe it registers. Well, this is weird. The phone's ringing again, and then she's like, "Yes, can you come to 34 Fairview Road?"
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. Is he blue at all?
You've got to get here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. She's not faking that. I hate to rain on anybody's parade. She's not faking that.
What's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
When I originally did this episode and dissected this call, that was the first thing I said. Oh my. Was he face down? And because everything I heard was that he was in the supine position. And she just admitted, yeah, we flipped him over. Come to find out, they had just flipped him over into the rescue position.
Right.
Because there was vomit coming out of his mouth.
Okay. And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
Okay, that's his girlfriend. His name is John O'Keefe.
Okay, how old is he?
John is 46 years old.
46. How long has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He got out of the car and
is he breathing?
A couple of hours.
This is what drives me insane about this 227 business. Even if she had Googled that, which we know she didn't, we know for a fact she didn't. Even if she had, what was the answer? Because obviously it wasn't long enough. So was she supposed to occupy Karen to not get him there in time? Was she not supposed to make that 911 call until, well, Google said it's got to be 11 hours and we're only at half.
And this is worth noting too, is if they think John is not dead, then why did they put him on the lawn with his working phone and why would she go home and be like, how long is it going to take for him to die?
Right. That's exactly.
So, yeah.
This host long to die in the cold at 227 is like she's pacing back and forth in between her, with her heated floors in her bathroom. And she's like, God, this clock can't move fast enough. Like older, like it is the most ridiculous notion. It's the rabbit in the dog race and everybody is still chasing it. I don't want to say everybody. There are plenty of people that have waded through a lot of the smoke that came from the first trial. They abandoned this in the second trial. They never contested the 227. So
they abandoned it until the closing argument where they seemed to argue that bring it up as if it was a thing when they didn't even bring their tech expert onto the stand, Richard Green.
Yeah, right. All right, so we'll finish up real quick.
Carrie, if you, I don't know if he's breathing. There are two women trying to do his body heat, and they're hysterical.
Okay, can you just try to ask him? I know it's tough, but we already have the fire department going. They just got to know if he's breathing.
Is he breathing, you guys? No. It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
You guys, Carrie, can you guys do CPR? No, I guess he's gone.
Okay, they don't feel comfortable doing so?
That is the most common answer, by the way. People don't want to do CPR on their loved ones. They want you to, it's over Tuesday. You can take it off the thing. They want you to come there. They want you to vaporize.
Right.
And just appear there and do CPR on their loved one. And it's completely understandable.
It's an awful thing. CPR is a horrible process.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, it's rib breaking and everything in the gushing and the gurgling. It's not pleasant. Now, I want to point out, you hear the urgency in Jen's voice. Everyone's going to say what they're going to say, which is horseshit, in my opinion. in my professional opinion. Then there's also like my heart breaks for Carrie because trying to do CPR on her prom date.
Right.
My heart breaks for Karen because the gravity of the situation is hitting her. It's slapping her in the face. She may not know that she did that at that point. She's still looking at a loved one and she's still trying to revive him. Whether it's for her own survival at that point or for his survival, that's between her and Jesus, like I said earlier. But she's still going through a traumatic event. There shouldn't be any question as to why she was freaking out or why she had the hospital but on the other side of that, she said a lot of things that she probably doesn't remember saying. And those were very important. And people all the time talk about how it never made it into a report. EMS is not going to write that in a report. Nobody's going to write that in a report. Now, I understand that, yeah, it should have made it in the police report. There's no two ways about it. But Canton didn't do the investigation. And they probably never relayed that to the state troopers or the homicide guys. And that's definitely a gap. That's a very important fact. That was, aside from the taillight, some of the make or break moments where the jury foreman said, no, I heard the first witness and I checked out right after because I figured they were all liars. And all they were up there doing was telling the truth. They had no dog in the fight. No pun intended in this case, but they absolutely no dog. And they just got up there and told the truth. And
well, and it's worth noting is that when Karen was arrested, within 72 hours, I forget, it was within
18 hours, wasn't it? They determined that she was the suspect within 18 hours.
So when they arrested her, though, and Prosecutor Lowley got in front of the court, the medic statements were mentioned there that Karen said, I hit him. So it wasn't like that came all of a sudden, at the grand jury or the, whatever. And I think people miss that.
Yeah, it was February 2nd. February 2nd was the hearing.
I get confused because everybody says that they decided within 18 hours. Dude, I've arrested people in 4 minutes. Like,
yeah,
I get what you're saying. I get what like now that you raised this issue about the Alberts being the kingpins of all of Canton. Yeah, maybe we should vet that information. Okay, it's bullshit. Karen, you're still going to jail because even David Yannetti, those first eating hours, those first hours was like, this is a horrible accident, and she feels horrible about it. Like
no criminal intent.
Yep,
criminal intent, he said, and she said on the way back from the hospital with her dad, I got to get a lawyer. I gotta get a lawyer. I mean, you're dealing with the death of your boyfriend. The top of mind is I need legal representation here.
Yeah. Why do you need a lawyer if he got dragged into the garage and you had nothing to do with that?
All you have to do is stick to your, I saw him go into the garage. Like, how about Dad? I did not do this. Okay, honey. Well,
right.
Anyway, I would never discourage anybody from legal representation.
No.
Never. I, as a law enforcement officer, often dealt with the attorney, the defense attorney, because they're more reasonable than the client. So that goes for anybody in this case. So if Brian Albert retains an attorney, if Brian Higgins retains an attorney, good. So did Karen Reed. Like, and
can I go back really quickly and just mention on that call, you heard how Jen referenced Carrie and Karen. She said there are two women. She called them women, just like how she called John a man.
That's a great point.
Great
so
point.
She didn't say, oh, Carrie and Karen, they don't know who they are. The dispatcher doesn't know who Carrie and Karen are. They don't know who John is.
Right.
He is a male, and she referred to him as, exactly that. And then she referred to them as the two women that were working on him.
You are essentially on autopilot when you're on the phone with 911 anyway.
Yeah.
But the most frequent thing I hear, and it's reasonable, I'm not saying anything suspicious surrounds it. It's a reasonable question to ask. I would never discourage anybody to ask any question in a true crime event or in a especially if you're a family member of a victim. Like ask questions. That's what the victim advocate is for. That's why the victim advocate was answering questions, advocating for the victim.
Right.
So I hear all the time about how you should have gone to the house and got the first responder that's in there. You mean the guy that's, first of all, like, I've got to run 32 miles an hour to get to the door, first of all. Then we got to wake him up. Then we got to brief him on what's going on around here. I'm not saying any of that is unreasonable. I am saying, though, the purpose of calling 911 is to get the emergency process started. Brian Albert is a Boston cop that has been trained in CPR, no doubt, and probably was a badass and could have done what he could have done to help save this guy's life had he been awakened. But what he can't do is produce an ambulance with a stretcher that can transport this guy to the hospital in a blizzard. He can't bring oxygen to the scene. He can't bring one of those machines that could do the CPR. He can't, there are a million things he can't do. And
it's not like you have a sign outside of your house saying, I'm a cop, please come get me if, Fifi runs away or if there's an accident or whatever. That it's very likely no one knew that he was a police officer who was responding to the scene because he wasn't in their department. He was with BPD.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I know that the person that called 911 knew, but
right,
but she's busy.
Right.
I understand what you, the person that is questioning this, thinks you would do in this situation to include Alan Jackson.
Yeah,
you would just.
Well, they did ask too. They asked Jen. They're like, Alan Jackson did. He said, "Why didn't you tell 911 that it was an officer?" And she's like, "Because I don't." Basically paraphrasing, but it doesn't matter if it's an officer or not. They come for a person that's there that needs help, and
that was her friend. That's her friend. When she thinks of John O'Keefe, she doesn't think Officer John O'Keefe. She thinks of John, her
That's
friend.
a great point. Fantastic point.
There is a there is a forced alternative MO that Alan Jackson has, which is he's going to ask you the question, and if you answer it, you have to answer it either this way or this way, and either way you answer it is a disaster that you're either way. So if he says, like, I kind of lost my train of thought here, but he did it to Dever. I could tell you that. Like, he's asking a question that has no out over here, and he's asking a question no out over here, and people assume those are the only two choices.
He frames it that way. Yes. Yeah.
The third choice is the truth, and that's what they tell. And they say, and then his closing will be something similar to, well, which is it? Was she lying about him being I know what the alternative in this situation is, because if she said, I didn't want, I should have said that he was a cop. Why? Because cops get special treatment, because cops are corrupt, because cops, you know what I mean? Like, if she answers it that way, he's going to take her down that avenue. And if she answers the way she did, she's like, well, he's like, well, it could have been a hit. It could have been, everybody in there could have been dead. Why? Why though? Why would you think that? That's great hindsight thought, but she's been in the car with the lady saying he's dead and a snowplow ran over him and I hit him. Well, why is she, what is in her frame of mind that she thinks that, did she drive the SUV through the living room also? Like, it's not feasible.
But the other thing is, and I realized this when you picked out 3 or 4 things I didn't even notice about the 911 call that I've listened to 100 times, is when I listen to this call, I just want to curl up into a ball. It stresses me out to listen to it every single time. And you could objectively listen to it as a professional, and you could say this, he asked this question, was John driving? That's so important. And I've never thought about it because I'm like overwhelmed by the stress of the 911 call. But Alan Jackson had 2 years to pick apart every word of that 911 call and figure and with the help of his client, figure out what angle they wanted to make fit to their story. And that's a distinct advantage over a person in the worst moments of their life, picking up the phone and trying to get someone to help her.
Oh, I've said this before. I have had to call 911 and it was the most, I still can feel it when I talk about it. It was the most horrible experience. I couldn't find my phone. My phone was right next to me. I couldn't find it. I could not figure out how to unlock my phone. I could not figure out how to dial 911. I was doing everything wrong. I was an absolute mess. I couldn't remember anything. Like, it's a horrific experience and one you never ever will forget.
It's
when there's a true emergency, I should say.
Yeah, and when you're scared.
Yeah,
the old the man in the arena. Like I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm because I use it all the time. It's like all these armchair people can say what they would do because they're people in their armchairs saying it, and you don't know what you would do. No. You don't know what you would do. You have no clue what you would do. Even people talking about the search warrant in the home or exigent circumstances and all that didn't exist. There's no judge in the land that would sign a search warrant for the inside of that house at all. Even a day later or 2 days later, no one's doing that.
Nope.
I mean, Karen never even said he went in the house at all during that first 24 hours.
Why wouldn't they obtain a search warrant for the guy across the street or the guy?
Exactly.
Like,
well, the body was almost closer to the other house next door.
Right.
I want to note real quickly too is that when we look at Jen's 911 call and people are saying, "Oh, she said a man," and in statement analysis, those are little things that you would flag. And I think we've talked about this before, but you have to use the cluster it doesn't mean deception. It's something that you flag while you're looking at more signs of separating yourself from something. And I would say that Karen's media statement where she says she thought she may have hit him in his drunkenness.
Right.
Is an extreme statement to separate yourself, because if she thought she hit him, it would be in her drunkenness. She was the driver that was drunk. A pedestrian was drunk. It would not be their fault if she, reversed. But that's what we would know as a big red flag, because she is making an extra effort to say it could have been my fault, but it was basically him. It was his drunkenness.
Yeah. That's what killed him. I hit him. I backed into him at 24 miles an hour, but it's because he was drunk that he died. It was not my fault.
I'm glad you just framed it that way, because there's a now famous clip. We're not going to show it. Tuesday, I talked about this. Like, I'm a fan of statement analysis too. And she's right. Like, it's got to be read in clusters. What that would be a red flag. Yes. But would it mean that she's being deceptive, or would it mean that she's under stress at that moment? And then you couple it with everything else that happens. What I noticed about a now famous clip that Karen has, where she doesn't want to be forthcoming about it, like, it's part of the ID documentary. She says something to the effect of, like, the interviewer, chance this is an accident? And she goes, there is zero chance this is an accident. Okay. Which is a red flag to me, because how do you know that? Like, how do you know it's a zero chance? How could you possibly know that it's a zero? And the choice of words is, it's a zero chance that this was an accident, which probably went into the murder charge over the manslaughter, which I personally think was a little
overcharge.
Well, maybe an overcharge, maybe. But I'm not making those decisions. So there's also not using proper pronouns to separate yourself from the situation, because her follow-up statement beyond that is never backed the car, never
Right.
picked up,
Never reversed.
I never reversed.
Mm-hmm.
My car did not hit him.
Mm-hmm.
That man, which is something you don't hear a whole lot from her. Like, even if they were on the rocks, you would think kind of top of mind stuff would be, this is about John. This is not about my, like, I understand she's fighting for her freedom. I really do. I have compassion for that. But if you're truly innocent, it's not that hard. All you have to
Right. And if you're innocent, you're going to want, and you were framed, you are going to talk about the evidence. You are going to talk about the data. You are going to talk about these things. You are not going to be talking about random speculations or, Brian Higgins.
Who was at whose wedding?
Yeah. I mean, she is, please. It's like, guys, if anything, if you want to, even if you think she's innocent, whatever, please look at the data and question why, if she is so innocent, why she has not talked about this in the media, other than when she was confronted on her way out of the court steps and she had to answer. And I guess she could have just walked away, but she said, the data is the data. And that's all she could say.
The data says what the data says. Yes, Karen, it does. There was, I promised I didn't want to talk too much about her because she's getting her own press. She can have her own press. I want to say about Alan, because I still firmly believe this, and this is going to be a very unpopular thing that I'm about to say. Welcome to my world. Okay. You should hear what I have to say about Uvalde. Alan Jackson. Okay. So let me start by telling a little story. I had this queued up Tuesday. There is a phenomenon, a psychological phenomenon known as misattribution. Okay. There's a classic case. It involves our friends over in Australia. We have plenty of people in Australia that are into this case, and they love true crime. And there was a woman in Australia in the 70s that was sitting and watching TV in her house, and something very violent happened to her. And obviously I'm not going to say it because I don't want the sensitivity triggers to go. Do the math. It's a woman. She's at home alone, and something very tragic happens to her. And she lives, and they take her to the police station, and they interview her, and they start showing her pictures because she's describing somebody very specific that she knows did this. And she picks out this picture, and they show her the picture, and she's like, that's the guy. And they're like, are you sure? I'm not 100% sure. I'm 1,000% sure. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not even using an Australian accent. So she's like 1,000% sure this is the guy. Okay. Now, this guy that she just identified as her abuser, we'll call him, had the greatest alibi ever. And that alibi was he was giving a lecture on live TV at the time of her incident. Not only was he giving a lecture on live TV, he was giving a lecture about faulty eyewitness identification, and he was sitting next to a police commissioner of some sort. That's a pretty.
That is the best alibi ever.
This is a pretty ironclad alibi. Like, so what they developed this, they studied this, and they call this misattribution, and they determined that it's the trauma that made her think this. She cut, Control C from the TV and Control V'd it right onto what she's looking at. Mm-hmm. And it's completely understandable because that's how the mind works. Okay. Yeah. So I framed the story the way I framed it for a reason. When Kelly Dever got on the stand, she cut either Ken Berkowitz and Brian Higgins in the Sallyport before the SUV got there or days after and pasted it onto the now famously converted video. She was interviewed by the FBI. She says they were in there for a wildly long time. There is no doubt in my mind that she believed that. There is no question in my mind. Then somebody said, hey, this isn't about do the right thing and all this other pressure that they think that they put on her. This was your key swipes show that you left the PD before the vehicle even got here, one. And two, the logs show you weren't here. And three, here's the video, but you were home in bed.
Right.
So how are you saying that you did it? And she's like, oh my God, I just lied. I just lied to the FBI. And they're like, just call them and straighten it out. So she calls the FBI. She calls the FBI's legal counsel. She does everything in her good faith, in her power to say, an idiot. I screwed this up. I swear I saw this. Now, you have to understand she's bombarded with social media. She's bombarded with mainstream media. And she's like, I saw those two in there for a wildly long time. Now she's embarrassed, but she still has the integrity to come forward and say, look, I made a huge mistake. That's not what I saw. There's no way. Somebody told me that it was impossible, and they're right. It was impossible. That's not what I saw. That's exactly what you would want any witness in your case to do, to tell the truth. Now, the forced alternative in this whole thing is Alan Jackson put her on the stand anyway, because what he can do now is say, okay, well, are you lying right now because the commissioner pressured you to, or did you lie to the FBI?
Right.
Because in the forced alternative, the jury is like, either way, she lied. But there's a third option here. The third option was exactly how she responded. I'm telling you the truth. What happened, happened, and I can't testify to what you want me to testify to. And yes, she got snippy. She was pissed. I could see in her eyes that she was like, y'all piece of shit client does not want ability, and you drugged me out of bed to come up here. Fucking celebrity. I'm sorry. Made a celebrity out of me. It got her fired. It didn't get her fired. She left. I think she went on a leave of absence. And after that, the bully, Alan Jackson, because she out-divaed him, the letter to say, if her memory is that bad, she belongs on a Brady list. That's disaster. That's dynamite to a young officer. And I'm telling you, if I were her lieutenant, could sit her down for 15 or 20 minutes and say, look, you made a huge mistake here. You gave in to the defense. He was playing you like a fiddle, and you fell for it. You can't do that, first of all. Second of all, you did the right thing by trying to make it right, and you told the truth. That's all anybody could ever ask of you, and blah, blah, blah. All of that could have been fixed. But no. Somebody was out divaed, so they had to diva up a letter and send it to the committee and put her on the hot seat. And it chased her out of law enforcement. Now, she probably had a bad taste in her mouth anyway because of this. And I don't blame her. But getting back to what we started this whole thing with, I know she was a Boston cop. Canton PD, I think, has 40 officers, and they're 10 officers short. Well, gee, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Like, every time we get on the stand, we're told that we're lying. Every time we have to use force to save our lives, to go home to our families and our children, it's our fault. And we are under scrutiny. There are officers that are hesitant now to use force. I feel horrible for any cop that's out there now. The social pressure of cases just like this, which is why it drags me into the gutter every time on X. It's because I'm in the fight for the cops that are out on the dispatchers, and the O'Keefe family and friends and the kids. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I understand that it's very arrogant of me to say, I've got 3 decades of experience in this, and you don't know what you're talking about. I do understand the arrogance behind that, but there's also truth behind it. So if you want to question anything about any true crime case, have at it. Just expect an answer and process it. It's the same with body cams. Everybody in this world has clamored for body cams, body cams, body cams. They finally get body cams. Now they don't believe what they see on the body.
Mm-hmm.
Like
now it's AI.
You're right. You're going to have to accept the answer.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for you because you think it's going a certain way or that we operate a certain way, but we don't. The number of dirty officers I've dealt with in my career are probably in the like 0.0000% and the number of guys that have gone through the McDonald's drive-through to get the free food to give to the homeless guy who's sitting out back is probably in the 80%, the 80th percentile.
Yep.
Well, and it's so unreasonable to think that it's unlike any other profession. Like you've never had a bad experience at Target with an employee, or you've never had a bad experience in a hospital with a nurse or a doctor. They're human beings. It's ridiculous to expect them to be perfect. And there's a difference between mistakes and corruption. There's a difference between even breaking a policy or, breaking a rule and corruption. Like those are just human things that humans do. And they're in every single profession.
That's a great point. And I think it's worth noting is people saying, oh, there's corruption in this narrative of the case. And it's like, where have they found corruption? Because you must not be understanding the actual definition of corruption versus, I don't know, incompetence, or, I mean, you can put this up against however other terminology, but corruption, it's like that saying that an extraordinary story is going to need extraordinary evidence. Like if you're saying that there is a massive, I mean, it has to be quite a bit of people who framed Karen, who was a random person, a drunk driver, and this had to have happened so rapidly. And basically, I mean, I'm losing my train of thought now, but
let me rescue you for a second here.
Yes, please.
The speed at which she had to make those decisions is the same speed that these officers have to make their decisions on a nightly basis about everything.
Good point.
They have to worry
Great point.
Constitutions. They have to worry about, am I violating this person's rights? They have to worry about, oh, the body cam picked this one up. It's going to look bad, but I'm not doing anything wrong, but it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to be suspended and I can't feed my family. It's the guy is pointing a knife at me and I should be my gun out by now, but I can't because I can't afford to get on TV and I can't afford to have this community burned down because I shot this guy when I know I should defend myself and everybody else around me and in all of this. And this is why this is what I've always said from the beginning of this case. You are undermining your own safety by doing this, by pushing this corruption aspect. Oh, you don't understand Massachusetts and you don't understand this. And you're undermining your own safety. You're driving the good cops out of this. You're leaving it open for the bar to be lowered to take the corrupt people in and make them police officers. If you know what you're saying, get a case together, bring it to an attorney.
It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Yeah. It's like suddenly it's everywhere that people aren't going to believe you. And, cops are going to leave. They don't, they're not.
It's why it is exactly why I left. Like I had him and I left comfortably, but I'm also comfortable sharing with you. I left a ton of money on the table, but I can't handle it anymore. I was just like, I'm done. It's like, you don't understand the internal pressure that we feel from the external bullshit pressure. It's not in actuality. It's because we're afraid of how it looks to the people who are going to be the loudest about it.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting too, is that, and I've talked about this in the past, and I'm not going to name the podcast or the podcaster or anything like that, but I used to listen to a lot of podcasts and true crime. Now I've crossed a lot off my list, but there was one guy who would always do wrongful convictions. And he would start this podcast, his seasons off with, hey, we're going to investigate this all together. You as my audience and me, we're going to start this from step one and go all the way through. And it's an old case and someone's been convicted. And he always ends up concluding that it was a wrongful conviction, right? Which is just kind of weird if you're starting this from scratch, right?
Yeah.
However, I would start to listen, and I noticed that like mid-season, I would trail off and stop listening. And it was because I wasn't really, his statements were very opinionated off of speculations, and he kind of just went off the road to try and prove that this person was wrongfully convicted. And one particular season, which was the last season I listened to, I actually had access to the case file, and he was not telling his listeners all the information. He was avoiding what was making the convicted killers. And it was two men who were convicted on this one particular story. And he was trying to avoid going there. And instead, he was wrongly accusing an officer of perjury on the stand.
Yeah.
And the listeners, you go in his Facebook group, which I was booted from, I believe, and you go in there and they're all riled up.
Yeah.
Because they're getting this narrative and it's sensational, and it just reaffirms this feeling of corruption, and the bad guys are actually, the government, and it fuels this heightened emotion, this fear mongering.
Yeah.
And somebody told us the other day that they were going to wait to watch something. It was a hearing or something. They told us on Twitter the other day they were going to wait until their favorite streamer was going to stream it, and not just watch it with no noise, not watch it with any commentary. They had to wait until they could hear their favorite XYZ person talk over it.
This is like the psychological phenomenon of priming, like, talks about it in a couple of his books. But if I prime you to think that I'm going to tell you a story about a guy who is wrongfully convicted,
yep,
by the end of it, the guy is wrongfully convicted, whether he did it or not.
Right.
Is
You're like handing us the goggles to put on a wrongful,
Right.
to view it as a wrongful conviction.
And also, you're going to draw in people who they love to hear stories about wrongful convictions. They're looking for stories like that. And one of the things we've seen is that there are a lot of people who support, that type of case or that type of argument. And in this case, who have long criminal records. They want to see the person that got away with something. They want to see the person who's freed because they got caught.
Yeah.
And we've seen it over and over and over again.
Look, we need that check and balance in the world too, by the way, like the innocence fraud people or whatever, whomever, there are a lot of people that are wrongfully convicted, and we need people asking those questions, but together, legal, let the courts handle it. This is not a social media issue.
Right.
Because there's a victim in their family who's hanging in the balance here, which is the other I was convinced of when they tried this a second time. And I said it as much in an episode, I don't remember which one. They only have one shot at this.
Yeah.
Because when she is acquitted, it's done. You can try to put somebody else on trial for this, but their defense attorney is going to say, you already tried that over here with that girl, and you know that she did it. You know what I mean? And that's all they have to do to point to the jury. So when the prosecution is weighing all of this and they know they only have one shot, it's not like, look, this is a slam dunk case or whatever. It's more than that. It's beyond a reasonable doubt for them, because all they have to do is convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt, but they have to be 1,000% sure that they know that they have the right person. It's the responsible thing to do. And I believe that they were being responsible. You don't hide corruption in front of that many eyes for that.
Right.
First of all, for that many trials and for that long. It's never going to happen. And anybody that thinks they had these aha moments, they're always explained. But then they just go into, well, it was a shitty investigation. There's always an what gets me is like these lists of, we're really cleaning the place up. Like we got Brian Albert retired, Michael Proctor fired. Okay. Michael Proctor was going to be fired. I have news for you. I don't think he was ever going to get his job back. He knows he screwed up. Brian Albert has he can retire. Like, so what? It had nothing, like, you can claim that as a victory in this case somehow. Reassigned. They reassigned Yuri Buchanan, and they reassigned as the state police, as anybody a captain or above would say, we got to get those guys out of Canton. We can't have them in Norfolk anymore.
Yeah.
They're marked. Like, it's not even a corruption issue. So they were reassigned. They weren't demoted like everybody keeps saying. They weren't demoted. They just have different responsibilities in a different area.
And I am sure they are happy to be out of Norfolk.
No kidding.
They might have a longer drive to work.
Right.
And about it, but we're going to call that a victory. This reminds me of, and again, I'm not taking pot shots at anybody. I'm not talking about politics here, but 60 Minutes or one of those TV shows did a whole story about how, CNN did this whole news story about how these two like 94 and 96-year-old women died during COVID in this nursing home. And they're like, basically saying because of X, Y, and Z and this terrible COVID, but they were 94 and 96. Like, did they die of COVID? Really? Yeah, probably. But would they have died of stubbed toe? Probably. I mean, they're going to die, right? So you're going to count that as the stat of, or the direct result of, just like they're counting the rehomed Yuri Buchanan and all this other stuff. It's just a course of doing business. It was naturally going to happen. Like,
no, you can't sell your house. You can't get rid of your dog. You can't do any of those things.
Right. Not allowed. We have to by the council first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get it. So I'll wrap. I know I'm taking too much of your time here, but just think for a second. If that was your family member and all of a sudden the defendant started blaming you, how would you feel? One. And two, those federal agencies take down La Cosa Nostra. They take down the mafia all the time. They take down major drug cartels. They find submarines in the middle of the ocean and take off, 600 kilos or 6,000 kilos of fentanyl. What makes you think that they're not going to be able to put together an investigation good enough to take two cops that weren't smart enough to dump the body behind the house or put the body in a trunk and just deal with it after the blizzard? Let them like naturally unthaw. Like, I don't want to be graphic because, for obvious reasons, but there are a million ways that they could have disposed of something if they had committed a wrongdoing or some kind of misdeed. Just before you point that finger, remember everybody is innocent until proven guilty. That's not a Karen Reed standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said.
Absolutely. I have I wanted to see if we had any questions I saved. I didn't do a very good job at saving them, but
he answered the one that I saved, which was the corruption versus policy violations.
Oh, I did want to respond to this one, which I already know the answer to. Didn't the Canton audit conclude that Jen's 911 call was actually very good? Yes.
Yeah, they did, but they also, I believe, suggested they get that they hire civilian dispatchers, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah,
recall.
they definitely had suggestions, but overall, particular to her 911 call, yes, it was it was a good call, they said.
I wish nothing but peace for all of us. Like, let's, God, I want this case to be put aside. I have the feeling I already know how it's going to go. But nobody is going to take a victory tour in this sense. Like, there is overinflated overconfidence on one side that just swears up and down that we're idiots. And then there's just kind of our side that, and I hate that we're even on sides. Like,
yeah, I hate saying sides.
Yeah, I don't like
it's
that.
awful.
Because I'm falling into the twilight again. But we're just kind of like, no, that's not it. And there are some very rational and very smart people that still believe it's framed. If you asked me, she was not guilty. They didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she did what she did. It did come out after that the jurors actually did think that she did what she did. But I always said that the jury was going to make that decision, and I never envied the jury. I do feel, though, looking into the eyes of Peggy O'Keefe, who lost a daughter, then lost a son-in-law, probably lost a few nights' sleep thinking about where those children are going to end up, and her one son steps up, takes the kids, and next thing you know, he's gone. And it's dramatic to me. It's like, how much more are you going to lay on this woman, her husband, and the brother, and people are using vile terms to describe them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do they have to do with this? Like, it's not. What makes you think you know more than them about this? Like, do you not think,
or that you want justice more than them for their own family member?
Do you not? They've asked a few questions that you think you still have. Like, Jesus, people. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's inhumane the way they've treated these people, and I will go as far as to say it's inhumane for the people who have allowed them to treat the family this way, and by not saying anything. The people who are advocates for Karen Reed being innocent, that's fine. But lots of you have not stood up and said no. And that means you've been complicit in this abuse. And I don't think anyone really wants to acknowledge that, but it's true.
That's brilliant. Look, I don't want to get this back to me. That's a Karen tactic. I'll tell you this, because you said it a minute ago. One of the most common things I hear, look, I know when I got them, when they go to my Instagram page and see that I'm 17 years sober, and they come back and they're like, oh, are you drunk right now? That's when I know I got them. They do it all the time. But if I were, as I'm accused of quite frequently, of being a grifter, do you think I would be sitting at 11,000 whatever subscribers on my YouTube channel? I mean,
right.
Do you think, or could I just jump on the train,
right,
and tell you what you want to hear, and and I'll answer your question if you give me a $50 super chat,
right?
Yeah,
I'll chase lawyer, and I'll chase brother counsel, not for an adversarial position, because I've chased them both for adversarial issues, and they won't give me the time of day because I'm not a lawyer, so obviously I don't know anything. But if I'm really truly a grifter, like, don't you think I would have by now jumped on the Karen train? Because this is one of the things I got into the gutter with somebody the other day on X. Not going to make any apologies, but I told her, like, at the very last sentence I said is just make sure they catch your good side at the fundraiser. And sure enough, when you look at her page, there's a bunch of pictures with her and Karen and her, and dude, people want the glamour of being around Karen Reed. They don't care that she's killed somebody.
And it's not just that level either. We've seen some big media personalities take the same trajectory when they figured out that the place where the eyeballs was the conspiracy side. And it's very disappointing to see that from national media. I've seen it twice in two different cases where they just they stop being journalists and
Yeah.
they go for the cash.
Yeah, but look, the friend I never met, John O'Keefe, is not your cash cow. It's
Right.
nobody.
It's sad.
He belongs to Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
His friend, and his friends and family who are constantly harassed to this day.
Yep.
So, God bless them.
Yeah. God bless them.
Exactly. We're so glad to have had you, Drew. You are just an immense amount of information and knowledge, and you bring such a great perspective. I really hope you'll come back and join us another time.
Anytime you want.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So glad we found you. I wish we would have found you earlier during the trial, during the first trial.
Tell me.
Yeah. We'd love to have you back.
Oh, so his channel is the COMM CENTER, COMM CENTER.
Yeah.
And we'll link it in the description when I get off here. So if you guys are
And it's
looking
the
for
same
it.
with X, and he's so much fun to follow. So, and he's so much more patient with the crazies than I am.
Yeah.
He is.
Sometimes I just read his tweets and breathe deeply.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm a fresh set of legs for you guys. Like I really, I've jumped on as many grenades as I can in life, and I really want to be that lightning rod for.
We appreciate it.
Yes,
You're like
because if I hear 227 again, I'm going to hit my head on the wall. I cannot handle the 227 anything. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. We appreciate you.
Tomorrow night, Julie, I believe it's Julie, Jenny, and Carrie are going to be covering the call-in files. And so that is also at 8 p.m. Eastern, I believe.
Yes.
So we will see you guys tomorrow night, or they will.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be there.
Yes. Hopefully.
Stay warm, Drew. It's so cold in Florida, guys.
Oh, you Florida people. All right. All right. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.